Good morning, everybody. My name is Derek Bolton, MBA class of 98, and I serve as Associate Dean for External Relations here at the GSB. This is an amazing panel. So as we mark the GSB Centennial, we're honoring a century of leadership, of alumni who have shaped enterprises and industries around the world. So this panel brings together distinguished alumni whose careers exemplify that impact. They've led companies in consumer goods, energy, technology. They've navigated profound shifts in economic forces, societal expectations, and global markets guided by their values and vision. Our panelists are the Lorde Browne of Madingley, MS-81, Managing Director of General Atlantic, co-founder and chairman of Beyond Net Zero, and former CEO of BP. Carlos Brito, MBA 89, CEO of Belron. That's Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
Perfect.
And former CEO of AB InBev. Patti Poppe, MS-05, the CEO of Pacific Gas and Electric. And Roelof Botha, MBA 2000, managing partner at Sequoia Capital and chair of our GSB Advisory Council. And this panel is moderated by Sarah Soule, the Philip Knight Professor and Dean of the GSB and the Morgridge Professor of Organizational Behavior.
Well, thank you, Derek, very much for that kind introduction, and welcome, everyone. This is such a terrific day, and I am delighted to have been asked to moderate this incredible panel. And I want to get started with kind of a nice softball question to each of you. And I'm going to give you three choices, and you may answer whichever one you choose. And as we think about the Centennial, I think it's good to reflect back on where we've been and some of the memories that we all have of this incredible place. So you get to choose which one, and we'll start first with Lorde Browne and go down the road. I would like it if you could share with everybody one of the following: your favorite class, your hardest class, or the class that has been most helpful to you in your career and life.
So, good morning. My favorite class was definitely taught by the late Jim Howell on geopolitics and geoeconomics. The reason is he was in a two-pole world and predicted a one-pole world going back to a two-pole world. That was pretty good. That was 45 years ago.
Brito.
Well, my favorite class was entrepreneurship, small businesses, with Jim Collins, who wrote in the book Good to Great, and I stayed connected to him for the next 20 years after that. So that was really important. Left a mark.
Thank you. Patti.
This is a hard question because I loved almost all of them. But I do, though, I think the one, maybe I just have to give two. One, I had an independent study, actually, with Deb Grunfeld. I think Deb, maybe she's in the house. And it was women's leadership independent study. And it was in that room that I first uttered the words, and I guess the context is important. I came to the GSB as my most recent job was a plant manager at General Motors, and so I've been in operations my whole career. And for the first time, I uttered the words, and even maybe to myself, that maybe someday I'd like to be a CEO of a mid-sized company. And so foreshadowing the future. And then Chip Heath's How to Make Ideas Stick. I think stories, not stats. That was very, very instrumental in my communications over the years.
Thank you. And finally, Roelof.
My favorite class was strategy, taught by Professor and then Dean Garth Salona. I think it really transformed how I thought about how businesses create enduring advantage.
Wonderful. It's so great to hear, and I'm sure everybody out here has a similar answer, and I hope maybe you'll share with one another as we go through the day today. And so I want to do a deeper dive into leadership, since this is what this panel is about. And so I'm going to begin, Patti, with you. So when you took over as PG&E's CEO in 2021, you said that leading with love would be the key to the company's transformation. And I know that stuck with me, and I know it stuck with some others who have remarked about that, leading with love. So can you talk a little bit about what that means to you and how you balance that message when you have to deliver tough news, including about rate hikes, safety issues, and other kinds of tough issues to stakeholders?
Well, I think some of it also has to also do with the context of the PG&E that I chose to lead. We had gone through a very difficult time, and there have been very difficult breach of trust with our communities and our customers. But we knew that safety would be essential, and in my estimation, you can't have safety without love, and I'll tell you why I say that. I've had the unfortunate duty as the executive and through my career at operating companies and utilities have dangerous work. And I've had the unfortunate responsibility or obligation or call to attend the funeral of someone who died on the job. And on that day, there's this incredible, overwhelming outpouring of love for that person who we have lost and for their family. And my observation is that's too late. That's not the day to show the love. The day was on the job when someone was about to make a bad decision that was going to forever change their family and their life. And so creating a space where we acknowledge that for all the hours we spend together on the job, that they should be filled with love and joy, and that we should know each other as humans and deeply understand each other's lives is the only way to ensure that you can have safety on the job. And so I think that has been an important change, and it's been a critical culture change at PG&E. I'll just share one sign of progress. When I arrived, we were losing a coworker about every 90 to 100 days on the job. That's not normal. Our work is dangerous, but it doesn't have to be deadly if you follow the procedures and the processes. And I'm happy to report that we went 945 days without a fatality, and I can say that only happens because the coworkers choose that, and they choose to love each other every day on the job and stop the work when it isn't right. And that is a key sign of culture change, I think, at PG&E.
That's unbelievable, and congratulations.
Love works, Sarah. Love works.
I agree.
I know you do.
Okay, so Lorde Browne, I'd like to go to you next. So in 1997, you delivered a groundbreaking speech here at Stanford on climate change, leading BP to take pioneering steps in addressing this issue. To state the obvious, this was a hugely courageous act. Can you take us inside that moment, and how did it lead to your role today?
So the moment was a moment, but what happened beforehand was much more important in some ways. I was leading a company full of highly technically qualified people, many of whom were geologists and geophysicists. And we realized that even then, in 95, that something was happening to the world, and it was not what we expected. In fact, there was every chance that we were altering through human activity the environment and the atmosphere. So we decided that we couldn't make such a decision, that we needed to do two things. We could make some decisions, but we needed some very deep advice on the science and behind it all, which we did. We pulled together an extraordinary set of people, chaired by a man who ran the Met Office, John Houghton, a very eminent scientist. And we pulled together a lot of people on the policy side, chaired by Jake Jacoby, a professor at MIT. And we decided those two groups would find out what was going on, give us the facts, and we'd figure out what to do with the facts or the impressions. So we concluded that there was something we had to do. And we decided we would figure out how many things we could do given the state of uncertainty of the science. It's all about measuring probability and positioning exactly where you should be with that probability. And the lesson always is never do too much and never do too little. Because if you do far too much, you're way ahead of where you think chance or probability will take you. If you do too little, nothing happens. So we tried to balance it, set out an agenda, which we did. And actually, if you look at the agenda we set out, it's remarkably similar to agendas followed even today. So we thought that's what we had to do. And then we said we had to do this publicly because we felt as a company and as a team that we wanted to be around every table where someone was making a decision about our future. And the only way to be around a table is to participate in the development of the policy and the actions involved. I think it's probably the case today with almost everything. Don't reject, be around the table, try and understand where society, governments are going to take you. So that's what we did. We gave a speech. I gave a speech on behalf of the company, standing in the Frost Auditorium on a very hot day, it turned out. It was quite fortuitous. It was really hot. And so I gave a speech, and I thought, well, that's it. You know, it's a matter of saying what the facts are. And within 24 hours, a storm broke. I mean, a verbal storm. So the American Petroleum Institute had told me that I had left the church. So I kept wondering to myself, what church had I left? And the good news was, incidentally, that I was invited back to the Vatican a few years ago to participate with the late Pope, the last Pope, on a discussion on climate change. And I concluded that I'd been readmitted to the church at that time. I was very fortunate in that. But there was a huge storm, and of course people believed that it was an existential threat to the oil and gas industry. It is not an existential threat. It's something that has to be managed throughout, and everyone has a role in managing it, which brings me to today. So with a good colleague of mine, we established an idea. This is the last idea, I guess, which was, can we invest in climate change and actually do it in a way which might make money for people, not just a sense of well-being? So that's exactly what we did. We used roughly the same agenda. We set up a fund which was designed to invest in really the intellectual property behind what happens when you try and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the big leading indicator of climate change. And I suppose we've done that quite successfully. We started with the idea 6 years ago, and we're pretty well through with the investments in the first fund. And it sort of worked out. And I think the lesson to be learned is that however difficult things are, provided you set in your mind a belief that something must be done, you can bring technology, organization, and ideas together to make them commercial, make them therefore sustainable for the future. And I remain, in spite of all the things that are going on, I firmly believe that climate change is not a hoax. I firmly believe that it can be solved with commercial activity, which means it's sustainable. And the nice thing is, I have some proof to demonstrate it can happen.
Thank you. So Roelof, let's go to you next. I love the first time we met, you told me about your title, and I've always been sort of struck by this great title of Managing Partner and Steward at Sequoia. And this, of course, I believe, you said, involves ensuring the firm's longevity and success for future generations. And tell us a little bit about this title, why that title, and I think more importantly, how can other leaders, future leaders, make stewardship part of their role, even if it's not in their title? Future leaders, meaning me.
Well, unfortunately, Supreme Leader was taken.
Yeah.
And stewardship is just sort of a rung above being an usher. But in all seriousness, Don Valentine started Sequoia in 1972, and he didn't put his name on the front door. He didn't call it Valentine Ventures. He called it Sequoia Capital because he wanted to build a partnership that would outlive him and invest in companies that would endure. And we're now in the third generation of handing over leadership in our partnership. And we all feel a sense of obligation that we need to leave Sequoia in a better place than we found it. And it's a variant of servant leadership. When I recruit new members to our team, it's with an eye to them leading the partnership when I'm no longer there and doing us proud. And we have very interesting mechanisms to hand over the ownership of the partnership to successive generations as well. And a lot of this stems from the core nature of our business is that we invest in these private companies that sometimes take 10, 15 years to mature. I'm still on a board of a company in which we first made a seed investment in 2007, a Stanford graduate actually. And so we just have to be incredibly patient and think very long term. And so for me, stewardship is coupled with this time span of discretion being very, very long. You think very long term. And so when I think about other business leaders, think about the legacy that you leave and not what you get from the company and from your team, but instead what you give to them. And whether you can be proud of those achievements many years down the road.
So, Brito, when we first met, you, of course, were leading InBev, and you did that for many years and transformed the organization with an incredible portfolio of so many brand names of beer that most of us know, especially those of us who actually kind of like beer, Stella and Corona and Budweiser, of course. But now you're the CEO of Belron, a leader in vehicle glass repair and replacement. I'm not going to sing the Safe Light jingle like Derek did. So, question for you is, you're sort of known to be a leader, and you've spoke about this, I've heard you speak about this, who cares deeply about organizational culture. And so can you talk a little bit about how you have built strong organizational cultures at two very different and very large organizations?
Cool. Well, I think in a way it's all started here. When I got to Stanford Business School, I was coming from Brazil. And for me, when I came here, I learned quickly two things. First, when I got here, I saw that this whole idea of excellence was something that was way beyond what I was used to consider excellent. So I raised my bar right day one when I arrived, and I look at the professors, Nobel Prize winners, and everybody. I look at my peers, my colleagues, and I felt, oh my God, maybe they made a mistake by admitting me here. And I tried to fit in and all that. So that was the first thing. I raised my bar. The second thing is that when I left, I was afforded the possibility to dream way bigger than when I came in. Because all of a sudden I met all these people that had big ideas, and that's contagious. And coming from Brazil and thinking that my future would be to be successful in Brazil, I said, well, maybe I can be successful in a world scale, maybe, because I was there competing with people from all over the world. And other than my English, that was always not as good, and I didn't have the dollars in my pocket, and I was not very tall. But other than that, I mean, I could compete, you know. So those two ideas got stuck with me. And then when I went to together with my partners to build this brewery that went from Brazil to the world, we had this very firm three things. We said, you know what, the company's us. That's something that's so obvious, but we miss that. We think that the company is a spirit somewhere. The GSB is us here. The professors, the administration, the students, that's a GSB. So if this group is doing amazing things in research and teaching, in going out there, founding companies, leading companies, that's the GSB reputation, and that's what the GSB is going to be known for. We are the GSB. So it's up for us. There's no GSB telling us what to do. We're deciding what the GSB will do, right? So it's the same with the company. So if you want to have a best-in-class company, you need to have best-in-class people, right? So that's the first thing. So we always paid a lot of attention to attracting the very best, but everybody does that. But where we think we learned a little more is how to retain them, develop them, so they stay. And they think as owners. That's the second thing, ownership. Because when you're owner, when it's your car, you make better decisions than a rental car. Nobody washes a rental car before giving it back. That doesn't exist. At least I haven't seen. So the other day, people from Enterprise called me, hey, stop doing these analogies, you know. So, but, and the third thing is this idea of dreaming big. So if you have the right people on the bus, and they feel they own this place, let's dream big, because it's the same kind of work to dream small or big, so let's dream big. And nobody's going to try to convince us to dream big. It has to be something organically that we come up with, and that's what, in our view, creates an amazing culture. A group of people with big ideas, ownership, do it right, because that's the only way to do it, the right way.
Okay, so the topic on everybody's mind, AI. I was going to say beer, but AI. So let's talk about this a little bit, and maybe we'll just go down the line, starting perhaps with Lorde Browne. Obviously, the rise of AI has implications for all functions of every organization, for how we work and how we relate to one another. And as you think about periods of rapid change that each of you has navigated, could you tell us a little bit about what's on your mind? And we'll just go down the line, starting with Lorde Browne.
My most interesting point, my second job was to run simulations optimizing the way in which oil fields were put together. And I had to do it on computing machines that had the habit of breaking down every so often. The runs took 24 hours, and nothing was achievable in 24 hours. You had to do it again and again. So my interest today is really twofold. First, in the fund I co-chair, called Beyond Net Zero, we're obviously interested in things that take data and help people make decisions to avoid, in amongst other things, disaster, like wildfires and floods. We have companies that do amazing things to stop electric cables clashing against each other in dry areas when there's a heavy wind. That can only be done with a vast amount of learning and actually understanding. But in another area, I'm very interested in AI as a tool for discovery. And you just have to think about it as what happened with the Nobel laureates who created new proteins. Nature's very lazy, and she only generates proteins that are needed. In some cases, they only generate enzymes that are needed, and these things are very exciting to create such things as, for example, liquid fuels not made from hydrocarbons. That's really interesting. Or making materials that can withstand the reactions in fusion machines, or perhaps even sit here and absorb vast amounts of CO2 with doing nothing. So I'm very excited about how AI is developing the laboratory in a machine and testing a lot of things very quickly to come up with answers that would be inconceivable for humans to get there in any finite amount of time. And I think that will change the very nature of the businesses we're in, because the products will change so dramatically.
Brito.
Yeah, well, in terms of AI, running a company, what I'm really interested is how to get from the hype to use cases, how we can get there. And two things we learned quickly. Of course, you need people that are literate, that at least know where things are headed, as much as you can know these days. Things are changing so fast. And also data. If you don't have the data organized in one place, rightly tagged, and ready to be, analyzed or deployed or used, AI can do very little for you. But more than that, at our company, we're very interested in how AI can augment the two most important constituencies we have in the company, our people and our customers. So for our people, how can AI make their jobs more pleasurable, less repetitive, more insightful, and therefore more appealing? So they come and stay, and we can attract the very best, again, talent. And for the customer, we're interested in the customer journey. How can AI get better at scheduling, at identifying customers, helping with product IDs so they don't have to enter a whole bunch of information. So making their journey frictionless so they can have a good experience. So I think that's the thing. Human beings will always be in the equation because you need judgment, and customers want to talk at some point in the funnel to a human being. Even if it is to say, I'm 15 minutes late, can I come, or should I reschedule? You know, a machine will take years to do that, just like an airline when you call, you get upset because you're in a loop. So human beings will continue to be there, but how can you use AI to augment that experience and augment what human beings can do? That's where we're focused.
Wonderful. Patti.
Awesome. Well, I'll build on some of Lord Browne's comments. We certainly have an existential threat in the form of wildfire here in California. And those of you that are Californians and live in the northern 2/3 of California, I'm happy to report that we're using extensive AI, machine learning, and automation to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfire. And so just as a kind of a framework, we have our entire service area broken into 750-kilometer polygons that we can see real time the fuel conditions, the wind speeds. We know what equipment we have in the area. We know when the last time we inspected that equipment. We know every tree that's within strike distance of our lines in those areas. And we can make proactive operating calls based on changing real-time weather conditions. We then pair that with AI-enabled cameras that can identify smoke faster than a human eye can identify smoke. Remember, there was not a day that long ago that we used to have people up in, tree houses watching for smoke to see if there might be a fire at some point. That's a thing of the past. We have AI-enabled cameras that have automatic notification to first responders. And there were, the Cal Fire Chief was testifying and shared that there were 200 instances where the AI camera certainly was the first notification. And in 9 cases, this is over like a 6-month period, no one ever called 911. And so these cameras are an incredible augmentation to our ability to respond. But then we use all of that data to know where we need to harden equipment faster, where we need to focus our efforts and our infrastructure investments, and where exactly the risk lives. And it's absolutely transformed certainly our monitoring and our inspection process. So we have these 125,000 miles of lines. We inspect those lines. We now are doing those with drones where people used to sit at a desk. Well, first of all, people used to, when I say used to, like a year ago, it's not back in 1972 or something, but they're walking around with clipboards looking up at a pole and going, yeah, that looks like something. I mean, I can tell you that wasn't very accurate. God bless our people with the best of ownership and desire, and most likely, like, I better bias to writing it up, right? So we had all these false positives. We now have the drones that have important technology combined with visuals when there's indicators that require a visual. We compile all that and use AI engines to identify where are the risks and what needs to be fixed now and what can wait and what actually is the accurate. And we have absolutely transformed now the database and understanding, not the database, but the data set. We understand now our assets at an incredibly different level, and that is why our wildfire risk has been reduced by 90% as a result of the deployment of technology combined with these meteorologists and these people. It's not in lieu of the guy with the clipboard, but I need the guy with the clipboard actually fixing the problem that needs to be fixed instead of like trying to make the list of what needs to get fixed. We're able to fix more faster with more higher value use of our people and AI that enables them to do what they love to do and are committed to doing, and that's ending catastrophic wildfire. Good. Very exciting.
Roelof.
Well, this is music to my ears because we're investing all the technologies that service all of you.
Yeah, that's good.
Can we send you some purchase orders?
We certainly should chit-chat.
Seriously, we actually have one of our companies is providing technology to PG&E. So I've been very reluctant to jump on the latest hype cycle bandwagon. Certainly was quite skeptical of the NFT wave that happened a few years ago. But I was at the GSB in 98 to 2000 when we saw the rise of the internet. And that was pretty profound in changing many businesses. And I still remember getting to the United States and renting at Blockbuster. No longer exists. And the internet obviously has had a phenomenal impact on our industry, and yet it's taken a long time. We're not even at 20% penetration of commerce in America that is online. Not even 20%. It seemed pretty obvious for us that we're living here in Silicon Valley, 25 years ago. Think about the unbundling of media. It seems pretty obvious, and yet most people aren't yet subscribers of YouTube TV, which seems pretty obvious. So I think some of these technologies take time to mature. I think AI is going to be different. AI is accelerating at a very rapid clip. At the advisory council meeting yesterday, Ben Holstrom talked about how at Nokia, they're only seeing about 7% impact of AI, and there was an MIT report recently that talked about the disappointment amongst the Fortune 500, so to speak, on AI adoption. I think they're at huge risk of being disrupted. I think they are at risk of being the blockbuster of tomorrow. Because the rate of change that we see on the ground is incredible. Just to give you one example, in software development, coding, there is more than $1 billion a year being spent today by software developers to improve their coding speed, whether it's with Claude Code or Cursor or Copilot, in 12 months. 0 to over $1 billion in 12 months, completely self-serve. And this is coming to industry after industry. There's this phrase that we've gone from software as a service to services as software. And I just love the fact that every day we're meeting companies with applications that never occurred to me where services businesses are going to be fundamentally disrupted. And the rate of change is quick. And the companies that don't move fast are going to be disrupted.
So last April, I was on a panel in South Africa, and the moderator asked each of us to quickly just say, what is our sort of favorite use of AI outside of work? So maybe I'll start with you, Roelof, on that end, and if you wouldn't mind giving us an example.
I love using AI for vacation planning. I think the ability to just quickly go into ChatGPT and just sort of say, I'm spending a day in Lisbon, I've got 3 hours in the morning before an appointment, tell me what I should do, and getting this incredibly well-structured itinerary with detailed milestones, stop here, have a snack over here, I thought it was just incredible.
Yeah, very good.
Patti.
Yeah, I love it for gift giving. I have a 29-year-old niece. She lives in Chicago. She enjoys this. What's a good gift in Chicago that I can get for her? And it's been very, very good ideas have come through.
Brito.
I've been very lucky because at home I have my wife Belinda sitting right here, and she's the master of AI. So I learned with her, and she hasn't used Google as a search engine for I don't know how many months or years now. So I do lots of searches now, learning from the master more and more, with AI.
Lorde Browne.
I collect wine. I have a huge collection, and AI has saved my life. It's figured out when things are ready to drink, and why, and what you have to keep for later. It was chaos beforehand, so it's wonderful.
That's fun. That's good.
Lorde Browne, does it help you with pairings as well?
Yeah, pairings.
I haven't asked it, but
that's a
I
good
think
one.
That'd be the next, I'm having a duck with this kind of sauce. What would it be?
Well, I have to have some judgment left.
Very nice, thank you. Those are terrific. So we have just a few minutes left, and of course, we all know that we are celebrating our centennial. At least I hope everybody's gotten that memo. And as you think about the next 100 years, what are you most optimistic about? And maybe I'll start with Brito.
Well, when I look at the next many years and I look at the GSB, I'm very optimistic because what the GSB does best is to produce great and, why not say, the best leaders out there. And the world will always need that. In any AI, without AI, any other technology that will come from that. What I learned is that great leaders are in short supply, just like great talent, always in short supply. No matter how much you invest, it's in short supply. And at the same time, great leaders are in high demand. So I'm very optimistic about the GSB because what we do here will remain relevant and in high demand forever.
So I'll leapfrog to Roelof.
I feel like he stole my thunder. When I enrolled in undergraduate first class in economics, they gave us their definition of economics, which was how to satisfy unlimited human wants with limited resources. And to me, that comes down to a question of management. And I shared with you yesterday this picture that Paul Romer had actually shown me in a class here at the GSB, which is a nighttime satellite image of the Koreas, which to me, again, is a lesson in management. You took two countries, you separated them for 75 years, and you see which one is illuminated and which isn't. And so I think similarly, the GSB will have this enormous impact on future leaders, managers who help us make use of resources to improve society.
Lorde Browne, I'll leapfrog again.
So I'm a great believer in the world being defined as the best is yet to come. I really believe it, and in fact, I think in business, if you don't believe it, it's unclear why you're in business. You have to be skeptical, of course, but you need to believe it. So I do believe that humanity is what we deal with here. We teach great leaders to be human, to understand purpose and inclusion as the two big strands. I believe that's something that will keep us going. And what I must say I see today is this wondrous world where people want to manage the impossible. And I think that's terrific, as long as the practical nature of that eventually happens. But the idea that we can manage the impossible is something that will keep us going for the next 100 years.
And last but not least, Patti.
Well, I think about my time at the GSB, and there's no doubt that I left knowing that anything was possible. And I think you said this earlier, like this idea that anything is possible is true. And at our company, we definitely have been teaching that to our leaders. And so we put thousands of our leaders through something we call our Breakthrough Thinking course to learn that anything is possible. And with that, it causes us to take stands for things that are very important. And when you take a stand, you both imagine the possibility of it is so amazing you couldn't not do it, but the idea of not having it happen is so devastating you also cannot imagine that it can't happen. And so we've taken a stand that catastrophic wildfire shall stop. And it better not take 100 years. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, I want to take a moment to thank these incredible leaders, incredible examples of what the GSB is. And I look out at all of you and consider you all to be incredible examples of what the GSB is and what we'll continue to do for the next 100 years. With that, enjoy lunch. We'll be back here for more panels after lunch. And I really look forward to seeing you all tonight at Frost for our big celebration. So we'll see you soon.